I thought we would work with back bends. So being careful, taking care of yourself, because back bends are unusual. Back bends aren't something we do in everyday life, so we don't sort of naturally reach behind us. If there's something behind us, we usually turn and look. So whatever's behind us is usually that whole sense of a mystery, because we live mostly in the front of our bodies. So when we come to work with back bends, is having that sense and an awareness of what's going on in the back of our body. How does it feel in the back of our head? How does it feel in our back, not just the front of our shoulders, but the back of our shoulders and the back of the waist, as well as the front of the waist. So working with care and really allowing the sense of you, the feeling inside you, to undermine anything any instructions perhaps that I might give to you. So it's always with that sense of care for how you're working, and knowing the knowledge as well that how you're feeling today is very different perhaps than how you were feeling yesterday or last week or even 5 minutes ago. How you're feeling now is where we're looking to really focus and really bring our attention to, because ultimately that's what gives us health. That's what gives us that sense of how we are, who we are, and how we can cope with what's going on around us. And it's also, I suppose it's worth mentioning as well, back bends, is that whole sense of those phrases like to bend over backwards is often to go a little bit further than what we feel that we should, or to come outside of our comfort zone. So really being aware that back bends are something that are really beneficial because they take us outside of our comfort zone, but are also something that we don't often work with. So coming onto your mat and coming to lie down, just as we, often we start with. So soles of your feet flat to the floor and your knees are bent. Just taking a little bit of time just to focus in and be aware of how you feel today. So sometimes it's quite helpful just to imagine perhaps that we are living in the back of our head rather than thinking of the front of our face. Think, how would it be if we could feel just the back of our head? How would it be if we could feel the back of our eyes? And even though our eyes are closed, can we see through from the back of the eyes? Taking our attention to the back of our shoulders, at contact with the floor. If your hands are resting on your body, being aware of the weight of your elbows. And if you're not sure, push your elbows down and really notice the ramifications of that movement down through the elbows. How does that feel in your shoulders? How does it feel in your head or your jaw? And then let go. And just finding a place where you can allow your elbows and your shoulders to be connected to the floor, but without pushing. And you can, if you like, move your head from side to side. Come into contact with the weight of your head as you just roll from side to side. And then just let your head just find its place in the centre, where you perceive centre to be. Feeling the back of your head, resting. And just imagine if you could see through to the back of your head. And keeping that place resting on the floor, just ever so carefully draw your chin down towards your collarbones, keeping the back of your head there, but drawing the chin down so you're lengthening the back of your neck. And then let go. And if you place your hands a little bit lower, right down deep to the lowest part of the belly or abdomen, again just draw your chin down so you lengthen the back of your neck. And also being aware that trying to free up muscles in the base of the skull and around the jaw with this. And as you draw your chin down but the back of your head stays on the floor, can you feel that response deep inside underneath your hands, deep inside the belly? Inside the pelvis, through deep to the base of the spine. And you might feel your waist lift off the floor. And then let go. And all those things you don't have to do. We're just trying to feel, come into contact with what's happening now inside our body. Maybe one more time, as you draw your chin down, feel any kind of response deep inside underneath your hands, deep inside the base of your spine, base of the belly. and you let go. So now, when you take your attention to the back of your head, the back of your shoulders, base of the spine, just feeling the weight, connection, and your breath is just as it is. So now when you take your attention to your feet, if it's okay to take your attention to your feet, just let your awareness rest there as you just lift your toes. Keep the base of the toes down, particularly the base of the big toe. Just lift your toes and span the toes. Try to make as much space between each toe as possible. And notice if you're starting to open the fingers wide as well. And relax your hands and just span the toes. And then let the toes come back down onto the floor. Relax your toes. Do that one more time. Lift your toes and span them. Make as much space between each toe as possible. And then let go. And then just do that once or twice more, but with your awareness now on where your hands are resting deep inside the belly. So can you feel what happens? There should be, or maybe if you relax enough, you can feel a connection deep inside through the spine as you lift your toes and widen the toes. So you create that tension there. And there's a response deep inside underneath your hands. And then you let go. And you can pause the recording at any time just to carry on, just experimenting with those feelings. And then when the toes come down, lift your heels. And come up onto the very tips of the toes and just feel underneath your hands, deep inside the belly, what happens there. Some kind of response. And then carefully lower the heels. And just do that a few more times. Lift the heels, come up onto the very tips of the toes. Notice what happens to the pelvis, that sinking feeling perhaps, or pushing. Because the weight has to go somewhere, has to transfer somewhere, and all we're trying to do is feel what happens to deep inside our body. Now we're just going to play around with these little movements a little bit. So take your attention to your right foot and just push down into the right foot. Push down. Feel the connection up through the leg, to the knee, to the thigh, to the hip. And then let go. Take your attention to the left foot. Push down into the left foot. Down through the left foot. You might feel the left hip lift. And then lower. So let's just refine that just a little bit. So take your attention to your right foot. And just being aware of the whole imprint of the foot, or the footprint. That your foot rests on your mat. And just imagine your foot, your right foot, it's just resting on warm sand. And there's a whole feeling of sinking down through the foot, through the base of the toes, the outside edge, the heel. And you keep that footprint resting down into the floor. And now we're not going to push the foot any more than we need to, really. We're just going to feel the weight go down as you take your attention up through to your knee, your right knee. And just send the right knee beyond the foot. So you're trying to, in a sense, send the knee as far away from your hip as possible, as far away from the hip as possible. The left foot still stays the same. You're just sending your right knee as far away from the midline of the body as possible. And just feel the weight, where the weight transfers. And then ease the hip, ease the knee back towards the midline of the body, or the centre of the spine. And then let's just do that the same with the left foot. So take your attention to your left foot and feel the imprint, or the footprint of that foot on the mat. The base of the big toe, little toe, heel, the arch of the foot, the outside edge of the foot. And just imagine that foot resting on warm sand, or something that maybe something that's fluid, that will just embrace the foot and just allow the left foot to rest down, down, down. as you take your attention up through to the knee. And just imagine now, or send that left knee far, far beyond the toes. Try not to tense up the thighs or tense up the buttock muscles. You're just sending the left knee far, far beyond the toes. And you might feel the left hip start to lift. But we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to work at sending the knee far away. And then the response is inside the body. Just progress from there. And then you let go. And the hip comes back down, perhaps if it had lifted. And now this time we're going to send the left leg away along the floor, and we're going to take the left arm over. But we're not stretching the left arm. The weight of the arm rests down through to the shoulder, and the elbow can be quite bent. It's fine if the elbow is bent. And the right hand can just rest maybe on the base of the ribs. Just get that sense of quietness through the centre of the spine. And then we're going to work, and the left leg is soft, the left leg is just relaxed. So again, we're going to take our attention to the right foot. Now just imagine your right foot planted, rested on the floor, and the whole footprint of that floor rests down, down, down into the mat. And you don't have to push it. If you find yourself pushing, relax. You don't have to move the toes, you don't have to do anything. We just have to have that attention or that awareness and that feeling of the right foot just resting down, down, down. And then with that feeling of the right foot resting down, we're going to send the right knee over, far beyond the right toes. So slowly, carefully, with awareness, the right knee goes far beyond the right toes, but you still have that footprint of the right foot down. The inside edge of the foot, the outside edge of the foot, the heel, the base of the toes, the tips of the toes. And as the right knee is sent away from, the right hip will start to lift. And just be interested in that connection from the right knee, travelling down diagonally through the body, through to the left shoulder. And just be interested in that feeling. As the right knee travels away, you feel the weight go down through the body into the shoulder. And using this movement to free up and to wake up all the tightness that we can find in our hips, or the tension that we can find in our shoulders. So relax your shoulders, relax the buttock muscles, soften the belly. And then carefully come back down. And then just see, is it possible to do that again? So there's that feeling of resting down into the right foot, supported from the floor beneath, as you send that right knee far, far away from the centre of the spine. But you can still feel the outside edge of the right foot, the inside edge, the arch of the foot and the heel. And the hip will lift, but it does that because you're working at something else. You can feel the weight go down through the shoulders, but that happens because of something else. So we can feel the progress of the movement, but we keep the movement as pure as possible. And then to bring the hip back down, imagine now the knee can be drawn in towards the midline of the spine. Not sent away from, but drawn in. And that brings the hip down. And you just feel your body just realign itself, perhaps, if that's the word, or just bring itself back to a neutral resting position. So we're just trying to really being aware of how it feels to rest. Now not focusing on how it feels to be uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be comfortable, to rest? So we're not trying to cope with anything, we're just trying to find a sense of quietness, comfort. So let's do the same on the other side. So when you're ready, place the left foot on the floor, bend the left knee, and the right leg goes away, and the right arm goes overhead. The left hand can just rest. If it's really uncomfortable for your arm to go overhead, you can let it rest on the ribs, it's fine. If it's okay for you to take the arm overhead, that's what you do. And the elbow can be quite bent, so you're not stretching. So the centre of the spine stays quiet, stays rested. And then again, you take your attention to your left foot. The right leg is quiet, the right leg just rests away, and the left foot is imprinted. There's a footprint you can feel. Another way to kind of think about it perhaps is if you've got paint on the underside or the sole of your foot, and you're just trying to leave a really good indentation or a really good footprint. So you've got the underside, the base of the little toe, the base of the big toe, the outside edge of the foot, the heel, the arch of the foot, and then that connection through the ankle to the shin to the knee, and then just work up, sending the left knee far, far beyond the midline of the spine, over the toes. And the hip will lift, perhaps, because of what you're sending your attention through to. So you're sending the energy from all through your body into your knee and just sending the knee away. And you feel the weight go down into the foot. You might feel the weight go down into the right shoulder. But these things happen. They're a consequence of your action, of your awareness. And then to bring the hip back down, instead of sending the knee away, imagine the knee being drawn back as though someone's behind you, pushing the knee in towards the hip. And that's what brings the hip down. And then really feeling the pelvis, the lower spine resting on the floor. And then one more time. Feel we don't have to push into the foot. The weight goes down into the foot quite naturally as you start to send your left knee away. We're not tensing up the left thigh. We're not tensing up the left buttock. You're just sending your left knee away from the midline of the spine. And you're feeling where your weight transfers to. And all your attention is on these tiny, tiny things, these changes, these shifts that take place in your body. Because we're not trying to run a marathon. We're just trying to find the starting line and progress from there. And then carefully, carefully draw the knee in towards, down towards the hip, back towards neutral. And let your hips and let your spine just find its place. And then draw the left knee in. Left hand rests lightly on the knee. Draw the right knee in. Right hand rests lightly on the knee. And then just settle there for a few moments. Just feeling the weights of the knee. The weight of the knees resting down, down, down. Towards the chest or towards the belly, wherever they are. So you're not pulling. You're resisting any urge to force or to push or to pull. Gravity is the only force that we really can start to befriend. That whole idea that gravity allows the knees to rest down. And now we're just going to take the arms up. So the elbows can be quite soft and the arms, fingertips just pointing up towards the ceiling. And you can, if you like, kind of experiment, push the shoulders down, and then let go. Circle the shoulders around a little bit. So feeling the back of your shoulders. And how do the shoulders feel? Because we hold so much tension in our shoulders, especially what's going on in the world right now or in our lives right now. There's always something. And then circle in the opposite direction. And then just let your shoulders find their place. Shoulders just find their place. And we're going to ever so carefully leave your shoulders behind, just leave them alone as you just rock your knees slightly, slightly towards the right. And you're just interested in that place. Where does the weight shift away from that left shoulder as your knees go over towards the right? And only go as far towards the right with your knees as you're able, as is possible. And then bring the knees back to centre. And as you shift your knees over towards the left, really allow the weight to be just as it is in the right shoulder. And if this is too much with your knees off, with your feet off the floor, then just bring the feet on the floor. But the right shoulder stays rested as the knees go over towards the left. The left shoulder stays rested, wide space between. And then carefully just experiment with that. You bring the knees up and just rock from side to side. But as the knees go over perhaps towards the right, your attention is on the left shoulder. So we're not trying to change anything in that left shoulder. Can you still roll your head from side to side? So you're not making a nuisance of the knees. The rest of the body can stay just as still, just as quiet as it is. So you're not holding on to anything. We're just trying to find comfort in the rest of the body as we just allow the knees to shift from side to side. So your awareness is on the whole of your body, not just on one movement. but on all of you. And ultimately, how does that feel as you just focus on this one thing? Training yourself in a way just to be aware of one thing at a time. Yourself. And how it feels. And then when you're ready, just bring your knees back to centre. Knees come back to centre. Carefully replace the feet back on the floor. And just bend the elbows, and the right hand goes on the left elbow, left hand on the right elbow. And just rock your elbows a little bit from side to side. Or maybe circle the elbows, circle. And then just if it's possible, slide the hands a little bit lower. So the right hand goes round the back of the left shoulder, left hand round the back of the right shoulder. And just really rounding the spine, drawing your chin slightly down, breathe in. And as you breathe out, go as wide with the arms as you possibly can, just being aware of the space around you. Breathe as you need to as you let your knees drop to the right, but really being aware of the weight going down through the left shoulder. Let go of the hips, let go of the thighs. Bring the knees back to centre, bring the arms up, but let the shoulders rest down. Right hand goes on the left elbow, left hand goes on the right elbow. And then just the right hand goes round the back of the left shoulder, left hand goes round the back of the right shoulder. Really round spine, back of the spine. Breathe into the back of the body, breathe in between the shoulder blades. And as you breathe out, let go. Go wide with the arms, level with the shoulders if possible, palms facing up. Breathe as you need to, and just let your knees drop to the left. And it really is with that sense that gravity is just allowing your knees to drop away. Roll your head from side to side. Just experiment. How does it feel? If you roll your head to the right, does it feel okay? Really feeling your breath deep inside as you breathe in. Your breath deep inside as you breathe out. And then just roll. Bring the knees back up to centre. Bring the hands back to rest onto your body. So we're just going to go back to that thing that we started with, so when we're sending the knees away. So if you take, if possible, take both arms overhead without letting the ribs rest. So centre of your spine stays quite rested as you take both arms. And the fingertips may be just touching above your head. The elbows are wide. And just find that footprint underneath the right foot, underneath the left foot. And then just carefully send both knees away to lift the hips. So you're not rounding the spine, you're not tilting the pelvis or anything like that. You're just lifting the hips as the knees go away. And you're feeling the weight go down, down, down into the shoulders, and just feeling how that is in your body as the knees go away from you. And then draw the knees back in towards you, in towards the hips, to let the pelvis come to rest down. And just slow it down, and just maybe do that a few times so you feel the weight, the footprint down into the floor through both feet as you send your knees away. And that will lift your hips. And you feel the weight go down into the feet, you feel the weight go down, down, down into the shoulders. Relax the buttock muscles, relax the thigh muscles, soften your jaw. Feel the weight go down through the back of the shoulders. And now this time, just imagine someone's behind you pushing your knees in towards your hips. And that might take your spine up a little bit more, but you're not leading with the hips. You're imagining the knees coming a little bit closer in towards the midline of the spine. The spine's like a concertina, now it will start to lift. From deep inside, underneath the centre, maybe the spine will lift. Feel the weight go down into the shoulders, relax the hips, relax the buttock muscles. And then carefully from the top of the spine all the way down through to the base. Just come back down, but really being aware, being clear of that footprint you have with the floor. When the spine comes down, you can draw the knees in towards you to go into sort of little boat pose, just easing the knees down, but not pulling or forcing, because that's just the opposite movement. So we're going into flexion after doing the back bend. And you can, if you like, rock from side to side. So we're going to go back to that, the back bend. We're going to go back to that at the end of the recording. Or you can stop the recording and just play around with it a little bit more now. So what we're going to do for now though is come over into all fours. So just rolling yourself up and coming over into all fours. So we're just going to work at this idea of finding the connections with the well, through the whole of the spine, I suppose. So just know that even though we might be working one part of our body, everything else connects as well. So coming into all fours. So your wrists more or less underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And just allowing the top of your head to hang, and just rock the head from side to side, move your jaw. And then just bring your gaze to neutral, so your gaze is between your hands, gaze is between the hands. And now we're going to ever so carefully just take your gaze towards your navel, so it's going to go between your legs. So you're rounding the spine, but just taking an interest. Notice when your pelvis starts to come into play. And then take the gaze back to neutral. And just do that a few more times. Now you're breathing just as you do. Now as you draw the gaze towards your navel, notice what happens to your spine, to your pelvis. And then just coming to neutral. And just do that a few more times, just taking the gaze towards your navel. Being as relaxed as possible around the shoulders, as relaxed as possible in your spine. And coming back to neutral. And now we're going to take your gaze forward and just up the wall a little bit, maybe so you can see where the wall meets the ceiling. And then bringing the gaze all the way back down between your hands towards your navel. Now your attention here, or your interest really, is just on noticing how or when, or if it does at all, how your pelvis integrates with that movement through your neck as your gaze lifts. So what's happening to your lower spine, the base of your spine, as you move your neck, as you move your gaze? So all we're trying to do is build awareness, build a knowledge, I suppose, of how our body moves. Because if it's uncomfortable, can we find those places of discomfort and just free them up a little bit? Do a little bit less. So we're not trying to hold on to the belly, we're not trying to hold on to anything. We're just trying to find the movements through our spine as we just turn the gaze up or turn the gaze inwards. And then when you're ready, just come just to neutral spine, so your gaze is between your hands. And then carefully, just if possible, just ease your hips back towards your heels. So you're not trying to do anything particularly, just easing the hips back. Bring the elbows closer towards the knees. You can support your head with the hands, or if the forehead would rather be on two fists, that's absolutely fine. Or you can see if the forehead comes onto the floor, just notice where you are. But really finding a place where you can kind of stay there for a little bit, a few breaths or however long it feels for you. And you're just trying to work at that idea of finding rest. So we're not trying to cope or put up with anything, any uncomfortable feelings. We're just trying to find a place of rest. So I think too often we think we have to put up with it, and if it's painful we think it's doing us good. Well, it's not really the case. We try to find a place of comfort in order to rest. Being with your breath. And then when you're ready, we're going to come up to stand. So obviously you can pause the recording at any time, so if you want to spend a bit longer on one particular thing. So let's come to stand. So your let's just work with that, what we were doing on the floor actually, so within cat. So if you place one hand on the collarbones or around the upper part of the chest, and the other part can rest on the base of the spine, kind of round there, the other hand can rest on the base of the spine. Now, if you take your gaze towards your feet, notice what happens to the hand that's resting on the collarbones. Notice what's happening to the hand that's resting around the pelvis. And those parts of the body underneath the hands, what's happening as you take your gaze towards your feet. Or take your gaze actually again towards your belly button. And now bring the gaze back to neutral, just to forward, you're just facing forward. And now take your gaze up towards the ceiling, not too far up, just be careful if stuff's going on with your neck, but take the gaze up towards the ceiling. Now notice what's happening to the hand and the collarbones. Notice what's happening underneath the hand that's resting on the base of the spine. And then reverse it. Come to neutral, bring the gaze towards the belly button. And notice, if you allow the top of your head to hang and you can follow that movement through into a forward bend, into a flexion movement, notice what's happening with the hand or underneath the hand on the base of the spine. Is there a rounding? And then come back, rounding the spine, coming up to neutral again, so your gaze is forward. And as you take your gaze up towards the ceiling, notice what's happening in the spine. And then come back to neutral. And then let go. And just shake off the hands, shake the hands. And then if we, let's take our attention down through to our feet. It's quite interesting. Let's do some things with our feet. I can't always do them, but sort of see where we are. If we lift up the toes, because I think we started like that, didn't we? If we lifted up the toes, and be aware that often if we can't move our toes, we're going to start moving our hands. So just kind of be aware if you start doing these things with your hands, because it's okay, but you just kind of know. So we lift up the toes and we bring the toes down. Lift up the toes and spread your toes, spread the toes, and bring the toes down. Lift the toes, and they're just exercises. Don't have to get hung up on these or anything. They're just exercises to wake up the base of our body, and then bring the toes down. Lift the toes, and then just see if you can just bring the little toes down. Just the little toes. Lift the little toes. See if you can bring just the little toes down. Then lift the toes, and then see if you can bring just the big toes down. And then lift the toes. Or big toes. Down, big toes, lift them. And just notice how the rest of your toes might want to start moving, or your fingers, or notice if nothing happens at all. And if nothing happens, you can push the toes down physically with your fingers. And then just see if you can bring just the little toes and the big toes down. So the middle three, we can't do it, middle three, stay up. Middle three toes up. Little toes and big toes down. So if it doesn't happen, you can physically push little toes and big toes down. And then let go. Right, so let's just shake off the foot. Let's just go again. Right, so if we start off perhaps with the toes lifted, let's bring the little toes down, because it maybe help to come onto the outside edge of the feet, and then see if you can bring the next toe, just the next toe down, little toe and the next toe, little toe and the third toe. Mine always seem to be glued together. Little toe and the fourth toe. Then, so the big toes are lifted. Now bring the big toes down, bring the big toes up. Bring the big toes down, bring the big toes up. And then stop. Shake off the foot. And now when you come to stands now, really having a sense of that support you might feel beneath your feet. Place the big toes, little toes and heels. Shrug shoulders a few times. So we're going to now we're going to open the arms wide. So we're just going to take on and embrace the whole world. So open the arms wide, and then just carefully, slowly, just bring the arms back as though you're hugging yourself. So right hand goes around the back of the left shoulder, left hand around the back of the right. And just notice which one is on top. And just do the same with that same arm on top a few times, as though you're opening the arms wide to embrace the world. And then rounding the arms round to you to embrace yourself. And then just do that a few times, one arm, same arm on top, and then just swapping over. So you're kind of knowing what you're doing. You're aware, opening the arms wide to find that space around your body, as though the arms are like wings. Arms are like wings. And the arms are extension of the lungs. So maybe really being aware of your breath, feeling the breath in your arms and around your arms. And then let's just see if we can progress that into Garudasana or eagle arms. So when we embrace ourselves, can we then just carefully just go into eagle arms? So from the hands around our shoulders, the elbows, so whatever elbow is on top, there's the underneath elbow. The arm that's underneath just comes around to the inside of the top wrist. And then just round shoulders. Can you just let yourself round down? And then coming up, widening, embracing the world. And then just embracing yourself. Just maybe with the other arm on top. And just seeing, can we go into eagle arms again? Rounding. So as we go forward, imagine the elbows drawing in towards the base of the ribs and rounding the shoulders. Let the top of the head go. So round the spine, soften your knees. And then coming back up, and then rounding, opening, and then coming back. And just playing with it a few times. So we're just letting the arms go. So rounding the spine, letting the arms go. When you come back up, you open out. And you're not flinging the arms out, you're softly, with care, embracing everything around you. Holding everything around you with care. And then perhaps the next time you come down, unfold the arms and just let the hands come towards the floor. Now how does that feel in your shoulders? How does that feel in your neck? And then carefully, bringing yourself back up. So it's going to work into you can work that again, obviously, stop the recording and go again. It's work into a back bend, and then we're going to come down onto the floor. So how I thought I would do that, I've been working with this with a wall. So if you have a wall around you, or a sort of a stable door or something, you could, but coming in, so your back is towards the wall. So if you're not sure, you can start off with the heels against the wall and the right foot, just a small step, right foot or any foot you like, just a small step forward. And then as the right knee moves forward, you keep the sense of the back heel resting. So the left heel still rests against the base of the wall, but the right knee is going forward. And then with care, let's see if we can take our arms up. And then just imagine someone's throwing a ball at you, or a nice soft beach ball, and you can open the arms and you can look up towards the ball. And then perhaps the ball is just slightly back away from you, and the arms just slightly go back. And the arms might just touch the wall behind you, but the weight of the arms feeds back towards the shoulders, and the front knee moves forward, and your gaze might go up. And you're aware of what's happening as the gaze goes up through your spine. And then you lower the arms and you step forward with the left foot. The right heel can rest against the wall. The right heel rests against the wall. Now there's a feeling of going forward through the knees, forward through that left knee, forward away from the back heel. The right heel rests against the wall. So when you're ready, you can take the arms up, but you're not flinging the arms up. There's that kind of sense of up, but the arms rest back towards the shoulders. The arms rest back towards the spine. And as the arms move back ever so slightly, as though you're going to catch that wide beach ball, the gaze comes up The arms might go back and the hands might just touch the wall behind you, but the arms feed back towards the shoulders. Make sure you're breathing, and then lower. Now if that's, so kind of repeat that a few times. If that feels comfortable, you can take the front leg, you can take one leg forward a little bit further. So you're coming further away from the wall. So the right knee moves even further forward. Right knee moves even further forward. And then you can take the arms up. And as you reach back slightly, you might find the wall behind you. But there's a feeling of moving forward through the knee, forward through that front foot. And the gaze comes up towards the ceiling. And then you lower. So if I do this side on, so the left foot goes forward. So the back heel, if possible, is resting against a wall or a surface. So you've got that sense of connection back. And back through that back heel, because the heels allow you to go into that back bend. So relax the shoulders as much as possible. And really having that sense as well, sometimes and often I will say, from the inside, underneath the ribs, we send, centre of the spine, we send that front knee forward. From the centre of the spine, we send that front knee forward. And as the arms go up, the weight of the arms rests down. But as we take our gaze up, slightly towards the ceiling, the weight of the arms rests down towards the shoulders. There's a feeling of moving forward through the knees, but you feel the back heel rest you, connect you towards the floor. And you make sure that you breathe. And then you come up, back up when you're ready. And you step back and just continue to play with that, kind of see how that feels in your body. And then you can, if you like, after that, going into a forward bend as softly and quietly as we did before. So we can just let the hands rest on the shoulders and just kind of move a little bit from side to side. Soften your knees, allow everything to rest. You can feel that twist maybe in the centre of the spine. And as you rock, rest from side to side. Stop twisting. Soften the knees. Soften the knees. Let the elbows hang. Let the top of the head hang. Unfold the arms and the fingers might touch towards the floor or the hands might come to the ankles. Just kind of see where you are. And then from here, it's quite interesting sometimes, just to bend one knee at a time. And if you bend the left knee, notice that left hip drops. Straighten, or don't lock the knee, but kind of lengthen through the leg. Bend the right knee. Notice that right hip drops. And let's do that a few times, just having that sense of connection through walking through the leg, finding that footprint on the floor. And it's very important you have that footprint, the base, the big toe, little toe and heel, so there's that connection from the floor. So as we bend the right knee and the right hip drops, that footprint through the right foot is really quite stable, is really quite strong. So you can experiment. As the right hip drops, is there a progression that you can just take the left arm up? So you can go into a small, easy rotation and then just come back. And as you bend the left knee, the left hip will drop. The footprint stabilises you from the heel to the toes. And as the right arm lifts, you can feel that turn in the upper part of the spine, not through the hips. And then you lower. And just experiment that a few times. As the right knee softens or bends, the right hip will drop to give you that space to take the left arm up, to turn. And just play a little bit with that. Feeling that connection down through the foot, for coming up through the spine. And then finishing in a forward bend, Uttanasana. Relax the shoulders as much as possible. Feel the weight go more into the front parts of the feet. Allow the top of the head to hang. Long spine. And then from here, if possible, walk your hands forward till the knees come down. You can flatten the feet. And then if possible, just ease your hips back towards your heels. Forehead just rests on the hands, or the forehead can rest on the floor. And just be with and feel your breath. And then just for the final part of the this recording, so we're working to bridge, and perhaps just kind of see if we can go up into wheel. So I'll show you, and there's you're working at home, you do exactly what your body is capable of doing, and there's no need to do anything beyond what you can do. So if I show you sort of everything that we've worked with so far, what's my dog, sorry, everything we've done so far, we use, comes into play when we come into these kind of positions. So all the small things that we work with are there. We don't forget them, we don't lose them. They're as vital as any of the big things that we're trying to grasp or we're trying to find. So to go into bridge like we did before, I'll talk you through it. So we have that, the knees are bent, soles of feet resting on the floor. And you can feel that imprint of the foot from the heels and the ankles. Really having that sense of openness in the backs of the ankles, the tips of the toes, the arch of the foot, and you can feel your feet. And then just as we started this recording, just send your knees away from the centre of the spine, and that will lift the hips. You can feel the weight go down into the shoulders. Is it possible to take the arms up? Is it possible to take the arms on the floor above your head without changing or making anything uncomfortable in the lower part of the spine? And now just imagine that you're not pushing the knees away, but you can draw the knees up. That will start to lift the spine a little bit more. But you're not pushing your hips up, you're not pushing up through the hips. The hips stay rested. The hips stay rested. The centre of the spine stays quiet. You can move your jaw, you can move your head. You can feel the weight go down into the soles of the feet, you can feel the weight go down into the shoulders, but you don't have to push. You don't have to push. And you ever so carefully lower back down, and just see if that back bend there, if that feeling there is nice for you, because if that's enough for you, that's what you do. You don't have to do any more than that. And the progression is just really keeping that quietness, keeping that comfort in your body as you lift the knees. Sorry, not lift the knees. As you start to lift the hips, there's a feeling coming up through the knees. And sometimes, I suppose I work with it sometimes, I try to make space in the back of my knees. So how can I make space in the back of the knees? So I often do that by working at drawing a feeling of drawing the knees in towards the hips. The feeling of the hips coming in through the centre of the spine, forward and over the top of the head. So the feeling of the spine is coming through towards the top of the head, not going away from the feeling of the feeling of movement is coming through the spine, underneath the rib, to the top of the head. Then the arms go overhead, but my shoulders rest down. The closer I can find my knees towards the hips, that's what allows the elbows not to move away, but the elbows to go up and the wrists to come down. The heels rest down into the floor, the feet rest down into the floor as I try to find that feeling of connection deep inside through the centre of the spine. So if there is a feeling of going up, it's from the centre. And then when you come down, or from whatever place you've come from, you rest. And really having that sense that perhaps something deep inside is shaken up, because it does. Backbends really do. Ooh, they shake everything up, and the feeling is often like a whoosh. And so then when you come out, it's that whole sense of settling back to a place of rest, a place of quiet. That's really quite wonderful. So let's go again. So the hands can rest above the head. And then that's the way that I was always taught, really, with my hands above, starting with the fingertips, just touching and the elbows quite wide. You've got space between your knees, and all these things, they can change. So never kind of think you have to be stuck in concrete or anything. Our bodies are fluid, mostly water. So with that feeling going down through the feet, up through the knees, inside underneath the pelvis, we start to lift the spine. And then you rest. You spend a few moments just feeling what you feel. So you're never rushing through any of these things, because the feeling can be far too wonderful to kind of neglect. So find that sense of connection through the heels to allow the back of the waist to widen and to rest. A feeling of widening through the back of the shoulders and around the collarbones, to find a place of rest in the shoulders. So you can start off with the fingertips just resting above your shoulders like that, if you like, just to get that feeling. And as the knees come in towards the hips, the feeling through the top of the head, maybe then the wrists might go down. You don't force that, well, you can't force the wrist anyway. And then you just see, with that feeling from the knees, from the heels to the knees to the hips, through the spine, right through to the top of the head, can we just transfer that further? And the weight goes down into the hands, down into the heels, but we don't have to push. There's always a feeling that we can come up away from the floor. And then you rest. And you can, if you like, if you take the knees a little bit wider, just drop the knees over to the left or to the right. But whatever way you've gone, can the opposite shoulder stay quiet, comfortable on the floor? Bring the knees up. The other way, can the opposite knee, so if the knees have gone to the right, can the left shoulder stay quiet, rested on the floor? And just moving from side to side through the knees or the lower part of the spine, as much as feels comfortable for you, till you come to a place of rest. The soles of your feet flat to the floor, knees are bent. Maybe then from here, drawing the knees in towards you, just as we've done before, rock from side to side. Till eventually perhaps you can again bring the feet on the floor and feel that footprint, that imprint down into the floor, as though the feet are just resting on warm, warm sand. Something that can embrace your feet, can hold your feet with comfort. And just as we started this recording, just being aware of those parts of your body resting on the floor, the back of your shoulders, the back of your head, your hips. And just imagine what it would be like if you could see from the back of your eyes, even though your eyes are closed. If you could dwell in the back of your head, in the back of your shoulders. If you could be in the back of your ribs. And the lower spine. And just feeling the very base of your spine resting, connected to the floor, and the hips either side, the weight that resides there, feeling your heels, the tips of your toes, and the weight that rests there. And being with your breath as it comes in, not only feeling the breath in the front of your body, but feeling your breath in the back of your body. Feeling your breath in all of your body. As you breathe in, and as you breathe out. And staying here, in this place, for as long as feels right for you. or carefully just choosing, deciding just to roll over onto your side, whatever side feels good for you, keeping your eyes closed for a while, settling on your side, orientating yourself slowly, carefully, and just coming to sit up when you're ready, coming to sit. Opening your eyes downwards, knowing where you are. And just coming back to the rest of your day. So thank you for joining me.